So I'm not usually a big Halloween guy, but I am inspired this year. I'll tell you why when we get this thing started. But welcome to Seahawks Forever. Just thought we would do a live stream here last day of the month, a couple days before Sunday Night Football. Crucial game for the Seahawks. Are all going to be crucial from here on out as they try to win the division. Coming out of a bye, we have some injury news today, some thoughts on potential trade targets, and your questions. I've already seen some in the comments. Some of them are not football related, and that is what these live streams are for. Not a lot prepped, just wanted to hang tonight, so let's do that. Coming up next on Seahawks Forever.
Welcome to the Seahawks Forever podcast. In-depth analysis on everything Seahawks. And now, here's your host, Dan Viens.
So let's see what I got queued up for you. We got a little bit of this action. I mean, that's a little unsettling, right? We'll probably make use of this a few times tonight. Like I said, I'm not usually a huge Halloween guy. I haven't been for a very, very long time. Not a costume guy. It came up the other night that maybe on the Syndicate show, we should have shown up in costumes as our mobster selves that the thumbnail came out at. But I'm wearing my KISS shirt, again, rest in peace, Ace Frehley. So doing as much of my part as I can. And it was only about a half an hour before I racked this up that I decided to go with some of the overlays and switch up the color theme. So you'll have to let me know what you think of that. There's some stuff that StreamYard provides, but I'm like, I don't know about that. And kind of takes away from the rest of it. So I like what I ended up with. Let me direct your attention to the new website right there at the bottom. Northwest Forever, nwforever.com. If you're listening to this later on audio, that'll take you to the Patreon. And let me just show you what that looks like. Injuries news. We'll get to that in a minute. This is what the new and improved Patreon looks like. And I just kind of wanted to let you know a little bit about how it's laid out, because now the advantage of this is all of my content is under one roof. Seahawks Forever, and you see the collections right down here. So the latest post, this is our latest episode, Rob Guerrero and I, the NFC West mixtape. But you go down, you click on Seahawks Forever, it brings up all of my content. It's all archived, going all the way back to when Seahawks Forever was born. These are all here, or at least on the videos anyway. It's from when I switched over to Patreon. There's 74 videos there, as you can see. And then you can go to podcasts. That shows you every audio episode that I've done. Those auto-populate, so that is the entire history there. And then Mariners Forever did my off-season plan last week. If you haven't checked that out, do. That's the first one up here in the left-hand corner. Laid out a full off-season plan based on the budget that they laid out and everything. The Mariners Forever thing is going to be a full-time piece of this moving forward. So that's there. Everything that we do, the Hawks Film Lab, the play of the week, which I'll be firing up again. And then our new Discord channel as well, which maybe we'll show you that in a little bit, how that's laid out. I'm new to Discord, so I'm figuring it out. But shout out to a couple of you who've already signed up and are in there. And that's where we're going to do the monthly, call it the Bracket of Boom, where you get to pick a topic that I do a full video on, and we'll do that monthly. So get over there and check that out. Everything under one roof. And the beauty of when you go here and you look at the video part of it, the Seahawks Forever episodes, and all the live streams, I'll be uploading those after the fact as well. They're not going to have any of the inserted YouTube ads that you get automatically placed in there on YouTube. So you get uninterrupted episodes. It's evolving into where it's going to be the best way to help support me as a full-time independent content creator, because it's 12 months a year, subscription based. It helps kind of ease the peaks and the valleys of the off season, and it's a lot of fun. I'm having a great time doing it. Did a couple videos this week, just short videos just for Patreon, where I can react to things a little quicker, a little easier, like injury news, and just hop on there and do 5 minutes without all the frills. And again, without any of the inserted ads. So check that out if you would. Let's go back and take a look at the latest news now with the injury report. Some good news and bad news. Yet again, we're trying to figure out how to read Mike McDonald. He's not very good at letting us know what happens with injuries. Jake Bobo out. Christian Haynes out, not a big deal. I figured they'd want to give him 2 weeks, even though he did practice in full this week. Julian Love out. We heard on Monday or on Wednesday that he had aggravated that hamstring while working out over the bye week. Eric Saubert out. Might we see Ryan Callerup? Is it Ryan? That's what you get with the undrafted free agent guys. His calling card is supposed to be a really great blocker. That's what Saubert was on the roster for. He's been on the 53, but not active on game day. Maybe we see his debut on Sunday. Then Derek Young out. And then Cooper Kupp and Jaron Reed questionable. Now, Kupp had one injury to start the week and then picked up another one. I think it was a hamstring later in the week. The Seahawks social media team did send out some pictures of him working out. They typically don't do that unless that player is going to play. Like, they're pretty in touch with that kind of stuff, but certainly not something you can bank on. And then Jaron Reed sounded like sort of a maintenance thing with him, just not wanting to aggravate anything. So he was limited in practice this week. Hopefully we'll see him. A couple of thoughts on this. First of all, if Kupp can't go, and by the way, McDonald was asked today the same question he was asked before the Monday night game when they gave their final designations. He was asked this about Love and Spoon. Hey, do you need to see them work out before the game in order to make a decision on whether to go or not? He said no. That gave me confidence they were going to play. They ended up not playing. He was asked that same question again today about Cooper Kupp and Jaron Reed. He said no. Read into that what you want. If Kupp and Bobo are both out, as well as Saubert, like, those are their three best perimeter blockers, and we know how important that is to this scheme and this run game. So as they're trying to get this running game going, like, the Seahawks have had much better luck than a lot of other teams out there. Certainly, we only have to look down I-5 to what the 49ers are dealing with as far as injuries. But the injuries we have had have been very untimely and unfortunate, and in a lot of cases surprising, where we weren't expecting them. Here we are trying to come out of the bye week, and that running game that showed signs of consistent life against the Texans, a team that completely turned around and shut down Christian McCaffrey the following week, by the way. Not one of the most electric running performances of the year, but one of the most consistent. Both backs averaged 4 yards a carry against that Texans defense. And now we're trying to get that going and get that fixed. And your best three blockers on the edge might not be available for this game. That could show up. Even Derek Young, when he's out there. And I know he doesn't get as much of the snap share, but blocking is a good part of his game as well. And then the Jaron Reed thing, man, if I had $1 for every time in the last 6 months that I've suggested either drafting interior defensive line or going out to get it before the trade deadline, because that depth, while the group is as good as there is in the league, the depth behind it, not that great, and things can change quickly. And if I had $1 for every time someone said to me, why do you want to go get a defensive tackle? We're good there. Wait and see what it looks like if Jaron Reed can't play, and then check back with me, because I don't think you're going to like it as much as you expect you will. Because now we're talking Brandon Peely and Mike Morris. That gets tough. It gets tough in a hurry. So some pretty crummy news there, actually. Let's get right to some comments and questions, because I did see right off the bat. Here we go. He's been waiting. Kick up. And again, I think YouTube's doing that thing for whatever reason, or maybe it's on StreamYard's end, where your names aren't showing up, but your usernames are. So I apologize for that. Last time it happened, it lasted for a few days, and then it got fixed. Hopefully that'll happen again. I want to be the first question since it's Halloween. What's your favorite candy? I'm going to warn you right now. I can talk about candy for an hour. I can talk about candy for an hour. I can talk about junk food for 3 hours. I can talk about cereal for an hour. There's a reason that this is never really where I want it to be, despite my best efforts, because, man, I love junk food. I love stuff that's bad for me. And at my advanced age, just had a big milestone birthday a couple weeks ago, and I had another reminder 2 days ago that I just can't do things the way I used to when I was younger. Found out that eating crappy food right before you go to bed can cause some medical problems. So I've been hobbling around the last couple days. Not a lot of fun. Got to change my ways. Anyway, Love, love, love talking about candy. And what's interesting about this, I think I did this on an episode about a year and a half ago, and thought about going back to look at it to see if my answers were the same. But hey, your tastes change and evolve. And the fact of the matter is there's 20 or 30 candies that I could talk about at length about being potential favorites. You didn't say favorite Halloween candy, but I'll answer it in both ways. Halloween, like, I'm a big fan of the classics. If I look in my trick or treat bag and there's fun size Snickers in there, I'm good. Like, whatever other crap people want to throw in there, as long as there's Snickers, I'm fine. It's the GOAT. I don't know if that was my answer before, but it should have been. Like, that is the GOAT. If I can only choose one, if I'm stranded on a desert island and I only get to choose one candy, it's Snickers bars. Like, those commercials they used to do were spot on. It's kind of a meal in a bar. So that's one. But my favorite candy, I mean, it shifts a little bit too, but I would say whenever I go into a convenience store or a grocery store and I'm jonesing for some chocolate, which is pretty much every day, I'm hoping they have Toblerone. Like, some of you might not even know what that is, but that's what I'm hoping for. It's the triangular. It's in like a kind of a tan triangular tube, and it's Swiss chocolate, really good melty chocolate that you know is not the fake waxy kind. And then it has little bits of nougat sprinkled throughout. So it's kind of like Butterfinger in a way, that if you're patient enough to let the chocolate melt in your mouth and not just tear through it, then you get, even if you tear through it though, you get the little bits of nougat kind of left over and you can chew on those for a while. It's good stuff. It's really, really good stuff. Bryce Coots with the super thanks. Thank you, my friend. Is Halloween a big deal in Canada too? How shocked are you by the injury report following the bye week? What's your favorite Halloween costume you've ever had? That's an easy one. And wasn't even expecting this question, but it ties in perfectly with something I've already done. Happy Halloween. Go Hawks. I don't know. Shocked might be a strong word. I think I'm learning to just not to take everything Mike McDonald says about injuries with a grain of salt. You know, like, he'll say IR is in play for somebody, and then they don't put him on injured reserve. They'll say that, you know, things are trending the right way, and then that player doesn't play. I thought Pete was coy and sort of deceptive about some of that stuff. I think Mike's worse. It's like, it's at the point now where why even ask him anymore? You know, just wait for the report. It's a bummer though. Really, really was looking forward to Julian Love being back. Fortunately, you know, the good news is that Ty Okada has played better and better with each passing week. And now the conversation has shifted pretty quickly from, man, I don't want that guy on the field, to, hey, if Kobe Bryant doesn't want to sign for what the Seahawks want to offer him after the season, maybe Ty Okada playing deep safety isn't a bad thing. And this goes back to something that I talk about all the time on the show, especially around draft time. Don't overreact to small sample sizes. You know, some of you wanted to lynch Ty Okada for, you know, a couple of plays that you thought he was in the wrong position or made a bad play on. There was one in the Tampa Bay game, I think in particular, that people were beating him up about. And then the analysts get a hold of it after the game and start putting out the all-22. And lo and behold, it wasn't his responsibility. You know, that game's a lot hairier on Monday night against the Texans if he doesn't make that great play down in the red zone. It was on fourth down, wasn't it? The pass deflection? That was a touchdown to Xavier Hutchinson, and he broke it up. It was a phenomenal play, and I just think he's a guy the coaches like, and he just gets better all the time. So that's the good news. But he's not Julian Love. And I hope he's not out too long, because I want to see that whole group together. I want to see the grand plan and how Mike McDonald intended to use all those guys from the get-go. We've only seen them all in the field together for 4 plays. Favorite Halloween costume I ever had. Again, didn't know this one was coming, but I'll take it off the screen here so I can show you. It's related to this. So this would have been 2003 or 4. I'm living on Bainbridge Island. I'm managing a restaurant there, Doc's Marina Grill, if you've ever been there. I was the first GM there. Basically, I was the guy that made sure that it set it up for success the first 2 years. into what it is now. Now there's 2 locations. The guy is still doing it. He's making a shit ton of money. And he pretty much, his life went off the rails the second year I was there. He left his wife, was cheating with one of our hostesses, was traveling around the world, whatever, left the place in my hands. So everything it is today is my doing. I just wanted to, that's a little tangent there. I'm just going to pat on my back for that. Anyway, we had a Halloween party and I went all out and I did Gene Simmons. I was more of a Paul or Ace guy, but I thought Gene and the costume and everything would be the most fun. I found the best part of it, like I had the whole costume and everything, spent quite a bit of money on it, which back then I wasn't making very much. Did the whole makeup, obviously. No, I didn't do makeup. I just found a mask with the tongue and the hair and everything, kind of took care of everything. But the best part about it was the boots. I found 8-inch platform black leather boots on eBay. And then I dressed them up to look, as much as I could, like Kiss boots. And the reason that was my favorite was because for about 6 hours, I got to be 6'4". No, that math isn't mathing. I got to be 6'6". Just walking around the apartment before we left for the party, like I got to see what the top of the fridge looks like. I was changing light bulbs. I got to see how the other half lived because I thought I was going to grow up to be that tall. I was this tall. 5'10". Well, I maxed out at 5'10". I'm more like 5'9" now. I'm going the other way. In 7th grade, I was 13 years old. I was playing post on the basketball team. I was an inside player. And then 2 years later, we moved back to the Bellevue area, and I'm still trying to make the basketball team. And now I got to learn how to play point guard because now I'm shorter than everybody. Like I stopped at 13 years old. I thought I was on my way. And God love him. My dad kept trying to keep me optimistic and tell me about that like great grandfather who was 6'5". I was like, yes, it's in there somewhere. Never got there. Now there's a downside to this story too, because after wearing those boots for 6 hours and drinking excessively, it felt like I was walking on knives and had to stumble back home to my apartment. And it was excruciatingly painful, but it was worth it because I got to be tall for half a night. So, this is interesting. So Johnny says, people say the games they've won have been closer than they should be. The past few years, we've been playing from behind every game. This year, they've held a lead in the majority of games. Now, I think I can screen share this. I saw something that relates to this earlier today. I just want to... Well, I don't want to... I'll find it while I'm talking, if I can. But it had to do with point differential by quarter. And it was a pretty cool stat. It showed how the Seahawks have a plus point differential in the first 3 quarters and a negative point differential in the 4th quarter, which is obviously something you need to reverse. It's cause for concern. The Arizona game obviously jumps to mind in a game that, they had in hand and, were a bad referee call away from making it a blowout and maybe the comeback doesn't happen. But, overall, they are 5th or 6th in the NFL in point differential, and kudos to Michael Sean Dugar. He's always kind of banging the drum for the deeper we get into a season, the more indicative and representative point differential is in determining good teams and bad teams. And the Seahawks are top 6 in the league in point differential. So that's something that, was a kind of a thorn in my side the last few years of the Pete Carroll era. All the, the slow starts and, can't win a game in the first quarter as a rationalization and that kind of thing. Mike McDonald has a different viewpoint. And if there's, and I think it's important to talk about because one of the things that I think one of the next steps this team needs to make is they haven't been as good as they could be at putting their foot on the gas and closing games out. The Houston game, the Arizona game, those are the 2 biggest ones. When you have a lead over an inferior team like that, keep it going. That's why I was so upset with the Cooper Kupp trick play call because you were up 14-0 at the end of the first quarter. You're driving on that drive. You're already in field goal range, if I recall. And I know that Mike's rationalization afterwards was something along the lines of, hey, we want to stay aggressive and we want to close teams out. We want to put our foot on the gas. To which my reply was, well, the way you keep your foot on the gas in a situation like that is by leaving your quarterback who's playing at an all-pro level in the game to do what he's doing and not trust someone who's 0-for-5 in their career on trick plays to do that. So things like that, I think, some of the things I'm looking for them to hopefully clean up coming out of the bye week. If Skip Bayless called us frauds, then that's probably a good thing. And the Seahawks are going to go on to have a really good year. I stopped listening to anything Skip Bayless said 10 years ago. Like when there was a moment where it became very, very clear to me that everything he did is contrived. That entire concept that he helped champion of two guys screaming at each other, two guys arguing, point, counterpoint. That's not natural. It's contrived. It's scripted. It's planned out ahead of time. You take this side, I'll take the other side. Let's fight about it. I hate everything about it. So I don't give any credence. He probably knows a lot about the game, but he's sold his soul and he's decided not to lean into that at all. I mean, he spent years covering the Dallas Cowboys as a print journalist. Like he was a very, very good writer, but he sold his soul. He found the way to the pot of gold. And I hate it. Hate everything about that genre. It's why I haven't watched anything other than live sporting events on ESPN or Fox in at least 10 years. So you can ignore anything that Skip Bayless says. You know, some of the other guys out there aren't as bad. Like Colin Cowherd, I know some people think is a blowhard, and some people think he goes for the hot take. He does, but I've always taken it as if he has a hot take, he leans into it and promotes it because you're in the business of getting views. So sometimes I push back against the clickbait. You know, people are just really quick to cry clickbait about something they don't agree with. We have to try to get eyeballs on our product. So we're trying to entice you with our headlines and titles. To me, clickbait is, here's a tangent. Clickbait is when you promise something in the headline and you don't deliver it in the story. So, you know, the chat sports thing, which is classic. They're so bad at this, where they'll write that the Seahawks are set to acquire a Pro Bowl pass rusher. I remember this from a year ago. And then you click on the article because you're like, what? What did I miss? Greg Bell didn't have this. Corbin didn't have this. Michael Sean didn't have this. Bob Condotta didn't have this. And turns out it's some dude doing what I do, just like an individual independent analyst writing for a website like 12th Man Rising, right? One of those websites that survives only on clicks and doesn't care about journalistic integrity or talent at all. And then you read the article and it's some guy just spitballing. Hey, the Seahawks should maybe think about going to get this guy. And they take that and turn it into a headline that makes it sound like there's legitimate reporting that the two teams are actively working towards finalizing a trade. That's clickbait. If you just say something you believe in and it's a little bit salacious, that's not clickbait. Just because you don't agree with it. And so Colin Cowherd, some of his stuff comes off that way, but I think it's what he really believes. It's actually his opinion. And he's a guy that I respect too, because he can admit when he's wrong. He'll say, I don't think this team's any good. And then 6 weeks later, they win 5 out of 6 or 6 straight. And they go, okay, I was wrong. They're really good. And he's actually been very pro Seahawks this year, by the way. Maybe that's the reason I thought of his name here. Dougzilla Monster, go Hawks. Absolutely. Hawks all day, forever. Johnny, appreciate it. Good to see you. I've gotten this question a couple times in the last couple of weeks. Kevin Dilly asking if the Seahawks traded for Tyree Wilson, how would you feel? My reaction would be why? Like, he just doesn't. If you're going to add someone to that edge group, they have to provide something different than they're getting from those other guys. And to me, that's the only reason that adding the edge group would make sense is if you can find a guy for the right cost, obviously, that offers you some juice, that can just flat out beat a tackle one-on-one and get to the quarterback at times. Now, those guys aren't usually available. But maybe, I talked the other day about Donovan Ezeraku potentially from the Falcons. He's in the last year of his rookie deal. Sounds like the Falcons might be willing to move him at the deadline. But he's kind of on a parallel timeline with Boye Mafe. Same draft. And this was documented by John Boyle in his insider piece after the draft that year, that they had Ezeraku possibly a little bit higher on their board than Boye Mafe. And the Falcons traded up to the spot right in front of him, took Ezeraku out of Penn State. And then, so the Seahawks went, okay, well, Mafe's next on our board. Let's take Boye Mafe. They had him, it sounds like they had him almost equally graded, but Ezeraku might have been the pick if he was on the board. And so neither of them have fulfilled the promise that their athletic traits suggested when they were drafted. And so maybe that's a case where you want to toss him a late round pick swap, see if he can give you something the last 3 months, and maybe you like him and he fits and he's a guy that you think about bringing back next year. But I almost wonder in the event of a move like that, maybe you just, in fact, I've suggested just swapping Mafe and Ezeraku. Maybe a change of scenery benefits both players. But somebody that gives you some juice. Tyree Wilson has never been that player. And I remember studying him hard and really trying to make him make sense when we had the 5th pick. We ended up obviously going with Witherspoon that year. His traits, it's kind of like Shamar Stewart this way in some ways. Tall, long, physical, athletic freak, but the production just wasn't there. He just didn't have the sack production or the pressure production, but you could see the traits. Well, it hasn't worked. He's been dealing with injuries. He was during the draft process. He seems to have a hard time staying on the field. So I have no interest in Tyree Wilson. As an off-season signing to take a flyer on a guy and get him into your OTAs and see if you can really build him up from the ground floor up, cool. But I don't think he offers anything at the deadline, not anything I want to give up any resources for. I think I addressed this already, Dogzilla. I don't know. I'll say this, and here's Johnny saying, yeah, Reed popped up as questionable too. Just based on gut feeling and history and what we know about the players and everything, I would say Reed's going to play, especially against Dan Quinn, right? But Kupp, if there's, with his injury history, soft tissue stuff, if there's any indication that they think he could aggravate it by going out there on Sunday, then they'll hold him back. They'll play it safe with him because he's too important. As we get down the stretch, he's too important. All of these decisions, make no mistake, all of these decisions about injuries are being driven by week 9 or week 11. That's the important one. That game coming up against the Rams is so massive, and obviously it's more massive if we win the next 2 and get there intact with the division lead on the line. It's looming to be maybe the best or the biggest regular season game that we've had in years. And so that's where you get into, like, do we put them on injury reserve or not? Because what if they improve and they can play in 2.5 weeks or 2 weeks? No, I guess it'd be 3 weeks technically. That's tough. And I think that played into Love and Spoon not playing against the Texans going into the bye. It feels like Spoon could have. He practiced in full that week, but they thought they could win without him. They were right. And then it would give him another 2 weeks to rehab. And now he appears to be fully healthy, practiced in full all week. He's good to go. Love, they did the same thing with, same decision, and yet he goes out and aggravates it, and now he's out. And so McDonald said injury reserve could be in play for Love, could be in play also. Let me go back to this because he said it could also be in play for Derek Young. But again, I think those decisions probably are going to be driven by whether or not they think they can get him back for the Rams game. So if they think there's any chance that Kupp could aggravate it, and with those soft tissue injuries, that is the case, right? Then I think they'll hold him out. Yep, here we go. Rock Eternal. Like the shirt. Nice tribute to Ace. Absolutely. That one really bothered me. Even more so than some other musicians that have passed away. The Janie Lane one really, really hurt because I got a chance to meet him and spend some real quality individual time with him and got to see what a wonderful human being he was. He just had his demons he was struggling with. So that one hurt because there was a personal connection there. This one was just because they were the most influential band on me as a kid, the first band that I really fell in love with, and the reason that to this day I prefer that kind of music, like melodic hard rock. That was a tough one. I got really emotional that night. I'm not ashamed to admit it. There's a few, and now it makes you just realize that there's others coming down the road, right? They're all at that age now. Like, I don't know how I'm going to handle it. There's a couple. There's a few. There's one in particular that I always used to joke that I would have to call in to work that night if the news broke that they passed away. Now I don't go to work, but yeah. If Steve Perry beats me to the other side, there won't be any content from me that day, or maybe the day after, or the day after that. Well, I'll just warn you ahead of time. Hopefully he's got a lot of good years left in him. He keeps promising he's going to come out, do another album that's supposed to be a little more energetic and rockish than the one, his comeback album in 2018, which is mostly driven by his partner passing away. So it was kind of somber, as you would imagine. Anyway, let's get back on track. Carly Perkins, Happy Halloween. Oh, I wanted to tell you why I was inspired, because I think part of the reason is I have never lived in an area that went so ham on Halloween as St. Albans, West Virginia does. This place, started seeing it about a month ago, and my first thought was, I said this to my fiance, my first thought was there must be some like big local contest that gives out some pretty good prizes, because maybe it's driven by Lowe's, because everybody has all the Lowe's stuff. Like the sheer amount of houses that went really all out on Halloween decorations, like the giant skeletons in the front yard. This seems to be a common theme. Like, I assume one person did it one year and then everybody else picked up on it. Like goblins and ghouls and skeletons climbing up the sides of your buildings and everything. Like almost every house is decked out. And then today I'm coming back from the gym, and we live up on a hill. Our apartment complex is up on a hill, and you come to the top of the hill, and there's a long residential street. It's one of the nicest streets in town, because this is an old coal mining town. It's pretty depressed here. It's not a thriving economic hub by any means, but I had to drive 10 miles an hour down this whole street and it was 5:30 Eastern time here. The sun was still out. Both sides of the street were just packed with families and kids and trick-or-treaters. And I can't remember the last time I've seen that. Part of that is living in a more metropolitan area, right? Like kids just don't go out and do that. But even I've lived in townhouses and smaller houses and apartments for the last 30 years or so in the Seattle area. And it's like, I just take it for granted. Nobody goes out and trick or treats anymore. So it was really cool to see. And that's why I came back and did all this. Just kind of put me in the mood. If they had to elevate a wide receiver from Cody White or Courtney Jackson, who do you think they go with tomorrow? That's a really, really good question. And I would have to say Courtney Jackson. I kind of forgot about him, but the reason they went out and got him is, and I liked it at the time because he offers them a little something different, like a smaller, shifty, slot-only guy, but also he has a really good kick return background, I believe. And Derek Young was really embracing that role. And he and George Helani on those kick returns were doing a tremendous job. So I think someone like Courtney Jackson might make a ton of sense. I know they brought in Velas Jones. He was supposed to be a really great return guy a couple days ago, but then immediately turned around and cut him the next day when they brought Miles Gaskin back on the practice squad. So Jackson makes more sense to me. As far as other elevations go, if you see a defensive tackle being elevated, that might tell you something about Jaron Reed's status. It could be Quentin Bohanna. Could be, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name right now. There was a dude, an undrafted free agent that I absolutely loved, a little undersized, but absolutely loved in the preseason and thought he had a chance to make the 53. And that is, hold on. Oh, I'm on the wrong roster. Come on, Dan. My goodness. J.R. Singleton. Just 6'1", 299, undersized. They list him as a nose tackle. It's not really his game. He looked like a penetrating three-tech to me, but I thought he had a great camp, looked really good in the preseason game, so maybe he gets an opportunity. But, yeah, that'll be something to keep an eye on tomorrow. We should get those tomorrow, right? Hey, Rusty P. Been too long since I've been live here. Wouldn't mind one more defensive tackle. And that's what I've been saying. We talked about trade deadline stuff the other day, a little bit on the syndicate. And I think they need a rotational guy. And I think it's very similar to last year when they went out and got Roy Robertson Harris. That was a guy that none of us had on our radar. I wasn't even familiar with him as a player. And so keep that in mind too, because I think there are players out there who teams are going to be willing to move that have not been mentioned in any trade rumors. And so it could be something out of left field. But something like that, like a rotational defensive tackle, I think those guys, even though they've stayed healthy, knock on wood, because I don't want to be reacting this way. No! They're playing too many snaps. And there's a lot of football left, a lot of really important football. And I think they're playing too many snaps. And another guy to rotate in there, I think would be great. Favorite thing that's bad for me. Ooh, Drew, that's a really well-crafted question, because you can easily justify in how you answer this, and by you I mean me, by thinking that some of the things that I really love aren't bad for me, right? It's got to be, I don't know if I was going to say junk food in general, but I think it's sweets. Sweets. It's so bad because it drives my other cravings. Like I reverse crave. And if you've never heard that term, I should coin it, trademark it, put it on shirts. I reverse crave. I will crave sweets and then decide how I want to get there. I do that with milk too. Like I'll crave milk and then it's like, well, what do I want with the milk? Well, milk doesn't pair well with salads and kale and vegetables. It pairs well with peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and baked goods and pastries. So I'll crave sweets and I'll decide how to get and try and figure out how to get there. And that usually involves other food that's bad for me. Or the flip side of that is I love spicy food. That could have been one of my answers for me too, because now at my age, although now I take omeprazole every single day, but like spicy food gives me heartburn and acid reflux. But it also makes me crave sweets, and in particular ice cream and chocolate. And so if I eat spicy food, it's tough not to have some of that stuff around. So that's it. That's my Achilles heel. My downfall is sweets. I try not to just have them in the house. Today I actually gave myself some credit. Here's an example of how bad, this is how bad it is. That it's this much at the forefront of my daily decision making. I go to the gym, I go to Walmart, I need garbage bags and a couple other things, right? I grab those things, grab myself a bottle of wine, drinking a little white wine here. What are you guys drinking tonight, by the way? Let me know in the comments. And I'm like, all right, I've got some leftover, made some really good. It was pulled pork fried rice last night. Fantastic. Not the most healthy thing in the world, but not the most unhealthy. But I'm going to slather that thing with sriracha. That's just what I do. So I'm going to need some sweets. So looked all through their baked goods, and my goodness, there was good stuff. There were some cookies that looked amazing, but I would have had to buy them in these huge packs. And I would have eaten them all. Maybe not all today, but way too soon. So I bought myself a bag. I saw them sitting in the aisle before the checkout stand of Werther's. And that was like my way. I don't know. Maybe it was, I've never been a smoker, thank goodness. But like, I guess the analogy would be like the nicotine patch or the nicotine gum. Like, okay, it's going to satisfy my need for sweets, but they're only like, I don't know, a few calories each. You could savor them for a while. They take longer. It's not the same as if I bought a bag of Snickers, I'd eat the whole damn bag, if that makes any sense. 13-4 Island is the place to be, Rusty says. If you don't know my journey, I chose 11-6 when the schedule first came out way back then. And then I allowed Bryce to get me to 13-4 Island after I saw a couple of weeks of what this team was going to look like. And then a lot of it was based on how much I got to see in training camp too, and how that colored my thoughts and feelings about this team. But then when I did my bye-week adjustment on my prediction, when I go game by game, I came up with 13-4, but I made my official prediction 12-5 just because of this damn league and how even everything looks to be this year. There is no dominant team, but there's a lot of good teams. You just look at the NFC standings and you can see that. They all have 5 or 6 wins. And I was just baking in the idea that at some point they're going to lose a game probably that I don't think they're going to lose or don't want them to lose. So I'm on 12-5 Island. That's where I'm at. Now, is that going to be enough to win the division? I think it will be, because at least one of those wins is going to be against the Rams. And when I did the schedule prediction, I think they're going to at least split with them. And if they don't, they probably don't win the division. I think it's that simple. And then I think that last game of the year against the 49ers is one that'll loom really importantly too. And I think at this point, I think if those two teams were to play today, I think the Seahawks would be favored in that game. Don't you? I mean, goodness. Each passing week, things, at some point the injuries were going to catch up with the 49ers, right? I don't know how good they can feel going back to the East Coast and playing a Giants team that's feeling pretty good about themselves. Now, they're down in the dumps because they lost kind of their spiritual leader, Cam Scadaboo. But what they've found, the spark that Jackson Dart's given them, and that defense is pretty legit. And it's Mac Jones again. Still no Brock Purdy. Still no Ricky Pearsall. Doesn't sound like those guys are any closer to coming back. Doesn't sound like Brandon Ayuk's going to be back anytime soon. And that offensive line is struggling so badly with the Niners. If they played right now, I think the Seahawks would be a pretty significant favorite. Martin Lawrence says, I think we can manage better without some of our offensive players and our defensive players for this game. Commanders' defense hasn't been great, but they'll maybe have Jaden Daniels back. Yeah, it sounds like didn't get today's update, but he's practicing full Wednesday and Thursday, so I think he's going to play. In fact, I think we saw today, I think it was announced that he is going to play. I think Schefter or somebody like that tweeted out that Jaden Daniels is going to go. And that's fine. Like, Mariota was playing well, and they don't, the thing about Mariota being the backup there is they don't have to change their offense when he comes in. And so it doesn't really impact McDonald and his staff as they're scouting and putting a game plan together. They can basically plan for both those guys about the same way. And we've seen him have good plans for mobile quarterbacks. Like Kyler Murray hasn't hurt him. And now you have Devin and Nick, right? If you're going to shadow a guy, like I just think the talent they have in the middle of the field now is so much better. And then on the flip side, as you say, their defense hasn't been great. The thing I keep hearing about that defense is just how slow they are. And I'm anticipating one thing about Sunday night and look, every time I count Bobby Wagner out, he proves me wrong. I thought he would be done by now. I thought both times the Seahawks moved on from him, it was the smart thing to do, as much as I love Bobby Wagner. But teams are picking on him, and we saw it just the other night on who'd they play? They play Kansas City? No, it wasn't Kansas City. They just played on Monday night. And now I can't remember who they played. Anyway, I don't want to look for it. There was a touchdown pass late in the game, an important one. I think it might have been the game winner. And Bobby just couldn't keep up with the crossing route. It was painful to watch. And their insistence on playing him 100% of the snaps. I just feel like he's at that point in his career where they need to take him off the field on obvious passing downs. But it's just that the entirety of their defense is the team speed is something that's lacking there. So I do feel like, especially coming out of the bye where they've had a chance to evaluate some things, I think we're going to be able to score and move the football. And without Terry McLaurin and without their top two running backs, Krosky Merritt has shown a little bit of juice, but I don't think they'll be able to run the football against us. And Daniel's going to have to throw it 40 times. He's really talented. He's really dangerous, but I feel good about the plan that we'll have in place and how they scout this game. If you're Cliff Kingsbury and you're scouting the Seahawks defense, what are you looking at? Because you literally have 4 snaps worth of tape, the first 4 snaps of the year, to try and get some idea of how Devin Witherspoon and Nick Hemingway are going to work together. So that's just a big mystery that Mike McDonald brings in to this game with him, or Clint Kubiak actually. Or no, McDonald, sorry. Got off track there a little bit. That's a huge curveball that the Commanders just don't know exactly what they're going to see. They're going to have to game plan for this with plan A, plan B, plan C. If this isn't working, we're going to have to pivot to this. So we'll see how that goes. Hey, Drew gave a go Cougs. Great reminder that, just to catch up on my content from the week, been working hard this week. If you didn't check out my episode yet with Stacey Rost, really great conversation. Loved having her on the show for the first time. And then she has assured me she's going to try and get Michael Bumpus to get a hold of me to get on my show. I got to introduce myself to Michael at training camp, but I didn't take the opportunity to invite him on the show. So trying to get that going. But also Corbin Smith in the episode and the chat that we had, the Seahawks Syndicate show, and then the look around the division with Rob Guerrero as well. Check those out if you haven't already. Okay, let's talk about candy corn. I don't understand why this makes people so angry. If you're getting mad about candy, man, you got to get your life in order. Like, people get so intense in their reaction when people ask them about candy corn. It's sugar. It's sugary candy. I think it tastes great. It tastes like vanilla. I will eat all the candy corn that you don't want. I'll just say that. Dennis says it's time to use Walker and Charbonnet catching passes. Bobby's a liability in pass coverage. I hope you're right. I know that, I keep saying the passing volume is not really there to go around, but I think in particular on third down, you got a guy chipping or whatever, get him out in the flat. It doesn't have to be like the coordinated, traditional sort of, leak the running back out into the flat and pull a couple offensive linemen in front of him. Like, we just don't seem to ever be able to get offensive coordinators that can run that kind of stuff, even though teams always seem to run it well against us. But just get the ball out to Ken Walker in the flat and let him do his thing. He had a career high in catches last year. And this is the stat I keep coming back to. But Clint Kubiak had Alvin Kamara last year with the Saints. And Charbonnet and Walker together are on pace to catch fewer balls than Kamara caught all last year by himself. And Kamara missed a couple games with injury last year as well, too. I think they have 14 catches between them through 7 games. That's not going to get it done. I think that's just something that teams haven't had to game plan for or really respect, but it could just be huge on third down, just to leak a guy onto the flat and get him the ball in space and let him go, man. It's I don't really understand the lack of that element in the offense, other than we're throwing it 50% of the time. It's the lowest in the league. Maybe the volume just isn't there. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, the other way to look at it is this. Like, some people have taken to worrying about what if somebody shuts down JSN. I'll react to it when I see it. No one's been able to do it yet. Even though they've tried to bracket him. They've tried to adjust to him. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers made a huge adjustment at halftime to try and double him high and low, and he still hurt him in the second half. The Texans came in here giving up 12 points a game, and with one of the best cover corners, if not the best cover corner in the entire league, and Derek Stingley, JSN went off. It's until that's why I hesitate to get upset. That might not be the right word, but that Torrey Horton's not getting more consistent targets, or that they haven't really found a way to unlock Elijah Arroyo yet, but it's working. If the first read's there, you go to the first read, and the first read's usually going to be JSN for good reason. So I'm not concerned about it yet. I think I have had these Misfit white chocolate candy corn M&Ms. No, maybe I haven't had those. Best candy in the history of the world. I'll tell you something about M&Ms. When they first started coming out with all their alternate flavors, I was pissed. And this applies to cereals have done this, candy bars, like don't mess with a good thing, right? Like even Snickers now, the greatest of all time, has a white chocolate one and a pecan one and a peanut butter one and all that. And at first I was offended by that. Like don't mess with a good thing. And then I tried them. And almost all of the flavors M&M's comes out with are great. Thankfully they made it full time, but caramel M&M's changed my life. They did. And I thought for sure when I tried them, these are the best thing I've ever put in my mouth, at least as an M&M. And they're probably limited time and going to go away. They're still here like 10 years later. They're phenomenal. I don't know if I've had the white chocolate candy corn M&Ms. That is a long title also, man. Charlie the Unicorn. With the recent firing of the GM in Miami, Chris Greer, mutual parting of the ways, to which I loved so many of the comments on social media were, so if he wanted to say he could have, no, he was fired. Would you try and trade for any of the players on the team? I'm a Waddle fan, but try and grab one of the outside linebackers instead. Waddle's a talented player. I've made it pretty clear that I don't see giving up significant resources to add a wide receiver because of what I just said. The volume isn't there. You're not going to get 100 catches out of Jalen Waddle. You're not, and just the threat of having him on the field, I don't think it dramatically alters how teams are going to play you. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it does cause some teams to back off of the heavy boxes a little bit because they face heavy boxes at the highest rate in the league. And that's part of the reason they're having so much trouble running, because they're running into stacked boxes more than any other team in the league. So maybe that's the thing that finally gets people to back off a little bit. But it's going to cost you, from everything I've read, a second or a third round pick, and I'm not doing that. Not to bring in another big salary when you're going to have to pay JSN a huge salary soon. You're paying Cooper Kupp significant money. You've got some other big decisions this offseason. Doesn't make sense. Now, if the Saints want to toss us Shaheed for a day 3 pick swap because he's in the last year of his deal, they don't think they're going to sign him long term, and they just want something back in return for him, okay, because he has familiarity. He can step right in and play. Wide receivers often take longer to absorb an offense and be able to get out there and play significant snaps than other positions, but Shaheed would be able to acclimate himself right away. That's something that I could go for, but only if it was cheap. I'm not paying big resources to go get Waddle. And I kind of feel the same way about Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips. Those guys have been beaten up and have had injury issues, haven't been able to stay healthy. Phillips is obviously the guy that has the more consistent sack production over the last 4 years. I just don't think that either of those guys gives you anything different than what you already have now that Derek Hall's back. And so again, if they want anything fairly significant, I'm not doing it. Reese's Caramel Peanut Butter Cups are pretty fire too. Here's what I'll say about those, Misfit. They're good, but the caramel isn't necessary. And I consider caramel a food group. Like I joke that I have my blood caramel level. That I always have some level of caramel in my bloodstream. But I remember eating those thinking, this works. These are good, but why? Because just regular peanut butter cups are amazing. And by the way, one of the most evil things that's ever been done by any corporation ever is when they came out with the unwrapped mini Reese's peanut butter cups in a bag that you can just eat like popcorn. Because one of those bags is a serving size for me. I don't care what they say on the label. And just enjoyed a bag of those the other night, actually. In fact, the wrapper might still be on the floor next to my bed in the bedroom. The lady's been away. I haven't really done housework. It's a priority for tomorrow. I mentioned earlier I picked up garbage bags today. I got a lot of cleaning to do tomorrow. It's one of the reasons I stacked so much content this week. because I just wanted the weekend to enjoy football and get some damn cleaning done. Which, by the way, let me let you in on a little something. So I'm going to hop on with Brandon Kane on Sunday before the game, little tailgate show, little pregame between Brandon and I, and then he rolls into, he does play-by-play during the games. And so keep your eye out for that. I'll stream it back to my channel as well, so you can watch both of us at the same time. I always love hanging out with Brandon. Ooh. I thought this was something else. Charlie, I thought you were about to talk about a candy store. Not, no, I don't know. You could consider it a candy store, but not that. Misfit. Oh, see, now we're going to talk about ice cream. Haagen-Dazs creme brulee was my favorite ice cream. Did they get rid of it? Haagen-Dazs, first of all, I have two answers to this. Haagen-Dazs has always disappointed me. And maybe it's just because sometimes you get I got that one pint one time that was like freezer burned, or it was ice cream has to be really creamy and smooth for me. If it has like that kind of those ice crystals in it, I'm out. In fact, on my Yelp page, one time a few years ago, I went to Ocean Shores and they had an ice cream place there that looked like the kind of ice cream place that there would be a line around the building, like local creamery, amazing flavors, 5-star reviews. Nope. Ice crystally, ripped them on Yelp, gave them 1-star review, just unacceptable. But also in my ice cream, like that sounds good. I love creme brulee. I make creme brulee at home on a pretty regular basis. I'm pretty good at it. You guys don't know how skilled your boy is in the kitchen, by the way. But I need a lot of shit in my ice cream. I need lots and lots of chunks and goodies. Like 1 or 2 things isn't enough. Like you would never see me just sitting and eating a bowl of vanilla ice cream, which is so weird because that's like my dad has passed around a lot of his sort of culinary idiosyncrasies down to me, but that is not one of them. I do not eat plain ice cream. Are the Blue Jays leading already? Is that why you're saying F the Blue Jays? I'll say this. I know it's more painful to watch what they're doing against the Dodgers, but apparently I think differently than just about every other fan, because while I see that side of it, it's looking more and more with each passing minute now that we lost to the best team in baseball. We took them 7 games without our best starting pitcher and with 3 of our hitters that really carried us through the second half into a division title that went completely cold in the playoffs and took them to the very, very, very last bit. So I think I just view that differently than other people do. Let's see. Charlie says, Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated recently reported the Jets are unwilling to move Will McDonald, but may be willing to move Jermaine Johnson for the right trade package. Is he in the last year of his deal, or does he have a 5th-year option left? I meant to look this up earlier because he is, like, the athletic traits are so outstanding there that he would be intriguing, right? Like, let Mike McDonald get his hands on this guy. But as a rental, let me see here. No, he's under contract for next year. Oh, they did pick up his 5th-year option, so that's what it would be. So it'd be pennies to acquire him this year, and then next year you'd have 1 year, $13.4 million, no money guaranteed. Okay, then that changes things for me. If he's a guy that John Schneider loved in the draft process, and he was drafted in 22, so that was, yeah, they had no shot at him that year. That was the year they traded Russ. 23 was Devin's draft year, right? Where we had the 5th pick. 22 was Charles Cross's year. So we had the 9th pick. And where did Jermaine Johnson get picked? He was the 26th overall. So they could have taken him if they wanted to. So they probably evaluated him. So that was a kind of a long-winded way to get around to saying that if he was someone that John Schneider had a big grade on in that draft, and Mike McDonald likes what he sees on tape and thinks that's a guy that I can make a star out of in this defense, then I would consider doing that. And I would give up a day 2 pick, probably take a day 2 and then maybe something in 2027 also, or a player. But he's got another year on his deal. If you like him that much, you can extend him or just, tack a couple of years on. I mean, player has to want to do it too, and he probably wouldn't facing free agency, but maybe he finds a home here. At least you can bring him in and you could work something out about next year because none of it's guaranteed. But I don't know. I don't know how they feel about that player and whether he'd be a fit in their defense. We have seen in Baltimore and now here in Seattle that Mike McDonald can have top 5 defenses without star edge rushers. Like what he did that record-setting year in Baltimore in 23, he did it with pulling Jadeveon Clowney off the scrap heap, Kyle Van Noy off the scrap heap, Brent Urban, Malik Harrison, guys like that. Like he's never had a superstar edge rusher, ever. And now he's doing it with, DeMarcus Lawrence and Derek Hall and Uchenna Nwosu and Boye Mafe. But if they feel like he has a chance to be a special player, he's got to meet the other Seahawks qualities too. I think it's important to bring that up, and I don't think fans ever take this into consideration. They might have evaluated Jermaine Johnson in that draft year, and he might not be a Seahawk. He might not have those other non-football characteristics that they place such a high value on, and maybe he didn't have a high grade in those areas in his draft year, so they're not giving up anything for that guy. And that's the kind of stuff that we're not privy to. We really don't know. Somebody like that would make some sense if they have conviction about that player. Kevin, I'm glad you asked this question. It comes up from time to time. Should we be worried about Clint Kubiak leaving this offseason for a head coaching position? No. Absolutely not. A couple of reasons. One is he's going to have to do it for more than 1 year. Like he's had 3 stops before, but he was always on staffs that got fired. And so he never really got to show that any success he had was any more than just a small sample size. But he goes out, he finishes this year out. Seahawks are a top 6, top 7 offense. Sam Darnold makes the Pro Bowl, maybe gets some MVP votes, whatever, just continues doing what he's doing. I mean, that's all great, but there's so much more to it than that. And to get one of these jobs as a young coach in the NFL, you got to blow the owner away. Have you seen Clint Kubiak's media availabilities? Paint drying is more fun to watch. Talked to my dad in the hospital today. He's not doing great. And he was really upset because the place they have him staying it's in a rehab facility. And he says, there's no music, there's no television. I'm just staring at a white wall the whole day. He would be better off staring at that white wall than watching Clint Kubiak press conferences. I think, and I said the same thing about Darrell Bevell when people were worried about that. I think he would have to put multiple years together that are so demonstrative of how good he can be as an offensive mind that a GM and an ownership group and a search committee will be willing to look past the fact that he is dry AF in his ability to speak. And that goes to, can you rally players? The media part of it's important. And the ownership has to believe that the guy he's handing $6, $7, $8 million a year to has special qualities. And it's going to take Clint Kubiak proving beyond the shadow of a doubt that he can be one of the best play callers and coordinators in the league over multiple years, I think, for him to get head coaching looks. His name is an advantage, obviously, but I just don't think he has those qualities. Let us see. Martin asks, is there any player you would trade out of the Seahawks for some extra draft picks, even in the lower rounds? It's so hard to say because the players that I'd be fine moving off the roster at this point, A, it's important to have him here for depth, and B, you're just not going to get enough for him. Like, I've been pretty adamant the last couple of weeks. I want Reek Woolen on this roster. Even if Sunday he doesn't play full-time snaps, I think we're going to see that with Devin being back. Just because he's so much better than anything else on the roster after him. And injuries happen. And we play the Rams twice. And the Niners again. And the Colts. And we need cover corners. Maffei's another guy where, like, I don't, he's 9 tackles, no sacks. I get the pressure rate stuff. That's great. And the unit as a whole is functioning well. It's kind of the same argument that you have for Anthony Bradford. Like, yeah, we can all agree that he's the weak link, but the unit is functioning better than any offensive line has in 10 years around here. That pass rush is working with Maffei. So I hesitate to move him out of that group because I don't know what Connor O'Toole is going to give you. I don't know what Jared Ivey's going to give you. So I just don't know. I don't think that they're there. I thought maybe Christian Haynes, if they're just not sold on him, he might be a trade piece. Teams are always looking for a young offensive lineman, and it's only been a year and a half. And so some team that had a good draft grade on him, maybe they had a 4th round grade on him. We took him late in the 3rd. They would give us a 5 for him. I thought something like that might happen. But had some conversations in the last couple of days with some people that are connected. And I think one of the important things about Christian Haynes coming back off the injured list, or at least his eligibility window is open now. He's not going to play tomorrow, but it sounds like he would be ready for the week after. I don't think it's all that coincidental that he's coming off before the trade deadline, because if there's a trade to be made for a right guard, we've talked about potentially Cesar Ruiz. My willingness to entertain the idea of Kevin Zeitler has changed in the last couple of days, in part because some information I thought was out there has not out there, so I was mistaken, but also with some things that have been reported that maybe that he might be willing to move. The Titans might be willing to move him. If that happens, if they go out and get a guy that they want to plug in at right guard to elevate that group, Bradford's not on this roster. Maybe he comes up with an injury, but I think they cut him if they can't just toss him to somebody for a pick swap. And he does have another year left on his deal, and he would have some appeal, I think, to a more of a gap power-based team. Again, because offensive linemen are so hard to find. Because he has no versatility. He can't play center. He can't play left guard. Like everyone else on the roster can. Even the young guys, Cable Do, Richmond, they can play tackle, guard, both sides, center, and Haynes can too. The center experiment didn't go great, but in a pinch, in an emergency, he could. But he could play left and right guard. And so if you go get a guy to plug in at right guard, Haynes then needs to be active as your backup because Bradford's going to be off the roster. I'm sorry, Ezaraku, you're right. I'm thinking of Ebiketie, but I think his first name's Donovan too, isn't it? Ebiketie out of Penn State, not Ezaraku out of Boston College. That was the name that was fresh in my head. It's Ebiketie was drafted the same year as Maffei, 1 pick in front of the Seahawks because the Falcons traded up to get him. That was the name. Thank you for correcting me. Sorry it took me so long to get to that. Jeffrey O'Kelly, why did we sign Velus Jones just to cut him one day later? He could have tweaked something that day. Could have gotten hurt. Could have been late for a meeting. Could have been late for practice. Could have done something in those 24 hours to show the team that it wasn't worth him sticking around. It also could have been that maybe they got better news than we've heard to this point on Derek Young. That he's not going to be out that long because Jones was only brought in for his kick return ability. So, yeah, you never know with those. You just never know. Randy creates says Steven Tyler. That's yours. That's the one that'll be. Yeah, Arnold. Okay, there we go. Arnold Ebiketie. Thank you, Charlie. Oh, but did I say both names? Is that what you're saying? Did I mess it up but also get it right? Dimebag Misfit says was one that really got him, and Randy Rhodes too, even though he was younger. Kevin, why is Christian Wilkins still available? Well, I think there's a couple of things going on here. But it's funny you bring this up. I was just thinking about this the other day. So it wasn't just the locker room thing that was reportedly part of the decision to move on from him with the Raiders, because everything you heard out of Miami was the guy was a great locker room guy. He was a leader. He took younger players under his wing. He played hard, high motor, did all the right things. But there was a foot injury too. And I think, if I recall, there was some disagreement about how to approach that. I think the team wanted him to have surgery. He didn't want to, or maybe he went and saw another specialist. There was some disagreement on how to go about the foot injury. Foot injuries can be tricky. Sometimes they derail careers. And so it could just be that simple. Maybe he's just not ready. Now, there was some reporting shortly after he was released that he would start visiting with teams soon. That's never happened. Well, there's another layer to this too. There is a grievance because the Raiders are trying to void all of his guarantees because of this weird behavior in the locker room, or because of how he went about getting the foot treated. So I think that might fall into that category, kind of like with Brian Flores and head coaching jobs and things like that, where no team is going to touch him until that stuff is figured out. Until that stuff's resolved or mediated, I don't think anyone's going to touch him. And so it seems like, to me, that even that being set aside, it makes the most sense for him to wait until the offseason and play the whole market. But I'll tell you this, the reason it popped into my head the other day is I absolutely think the Seahawks would be in on that this offseason if he gets healthy and he can pass a physical and they get all that stuff worked out with the Raiders and they bring him in for a visit and they're satisfied with the personality. Imagine the opportunity to add a guy like that next year, not only in free agency where you don't have to give up any resources, but also at a discount. He's not going to sign for anything near what he signed for with the Raiders. There probably wouldn't be a lot of guaranteed money. There'd be a lot of injury protections and for the team, and it'd be a process. I think if it was just the foot, then maybe something would have happened by now. But with that many questions, like, teams aren't equipped right now to do those evaluations. That's off-season stuff. But, man, if he gets healthy and gets all that stuff worked out this offseason, knowing he's out there, imagine him, next Byron Murphy, frees him up to play full-time 3 technique, Leonard Williams. Wow, now you're cooking with gas. Charlie asks, with fire sale in Miami, should Seattle make a trade to bolster the secondary, bring in Rasul Douglas, top 10 ranked cornerback this season so far, and a guy that they brought in for a visit? They ended up signing Shaq Griffin instead. My question would be this: where's he going to play, and when's he going to play? Where are the snaps? You're not going to trade for a guy like Rasul Douglas and not play him. Who's he taking snaps from? Last week on Monday night, without Devin Witherspoon still, Darren Kendrick got 0 snaps. And we saw how well he played his first 2 weeks with the team. If Darren Kendrick can't even get snaps with Spoon out, how's Rasul Douglas going to get snaps with Spoon back and Reek and Josh Jobe and Nick Emenwari? I don't see it. It's not a need. It's absolutely not a need. They still have Shamar Jean-Charles, a veteran that there's some familiarity with there, at least with the offensive staff from being in New Orleans last year. He's been on the practice squad all year. And there's still Shaq. If they need just depth for depth, they've got it already. Rusty says he's got a Jack and Coke going. Nice. I'm going to take a sip of my white wine here. A little Sauvignon Blanc. I'm mostly a beer guy, but I'm trying to drink less beer. It's just too filling and bleh, bleh. Kendrick Coles says, I hate candy corn, but I could care less what people prefer to eat. That's the way it should be. But also, because I'm just a nerd, I couldn't care less. If you could care less, that means you care. So, just a little correction there. Charlie says, the normal candy corn is great, but the alt version with brown sugar is terrible. I've never had that. Martin says, don't forget to hit the like. Really appreciate that. Let me do this real quick, by the way. Little update for those of you playing in our Sleeper Pick'em League. C. Hawkinson, Rainier 23, and Creef Chiefs are right on my tail. C. Hawkinson and Rainier 23 are 1 point behind me. You can see there that I have 83 to their 71. But remember, I did it by myself for 1 week, and I got 11 right that week. So subtract 11 from there. So I have 72. They each have 71. Creef Chiefs has 70, and Goza 91 has 69. So thanks for playing along with that. If you guys want to get in on the Sleeper app, you can pick games like that. You can follow along with games, live action. They have the best real-time play-by-play tracker on your phone. You can react to every play with emojis. You can actually chat with other users that are in there. There's a whole community as part of it. You can play fantasy football. You can play best ball, fantasy, and there are the games of skill. And if you want to get in on those, they're just going to give you $20 right now for signing up. Just free $20, no deposit needed. That's the deal that you see there to the right of the screen or to the left of the screen as you're watching. But also, if you want to lean into it a little harder than that, they're going to match your first deposit up to $100, 100%. All you have to do is go to the Sleeper app and use the promo code FOREVER when you sign up. And again, another reminder about northwestforever.com. That'll take you to the Patreon, the new and improved Patreon. All of my content, all under one roof. Seahawks, Mariners, whatever else I decide to do. Video, audio, Discord, my Substack also now comes along with your membership on Patreon as well. That's all included, all of it, every little bit of it. Did I mention all of it? Also, shout out to my boys at Fast Fashion Brewing too. Here, I was going to do this. Let's go here. I wanted to give them a little plug today. If you guys like craft beer, like head down to Sodo. That's Matt Storm right there, the guy in the black hat and the black shirt. He runs the place. My buddy, love the beers he makes. That looks right there like it might be the Rain Man, which is their hazy pale that was made in collaboration with Sean Kemp. It is tasty as heck. You can see their back room there. That's where we did that's where the Seahawks Syndicate was formed when we were all there during training camp. We're going to do that again next year. And then they kind of turn it into a little dance area as well. Here's some of their beers. The Rain Man is outstanding. They also, let me see. I wanted to tell you about, the Crop Top. Their German Pilsner. Unbelievable. So anyway, those guys are really great to help support the show and what I do. So check them out when you get a chance down at Sodo. Let's see. Charlie says Seahawks have to involve the tight end in the pass game up the seams. I suspect Arroyo will have a big game. God, we saw signs early in that Texans game, right? He was clearly a part of the game plan in the early part of the game when Kubiak scripts those plays. Like he had 2 or 3 targets, had a couple of nice catches. I keep waiting for the breakout game. This could be one of them with Bobby in the middle and as slow as the Redskins are on defense, especially if Kupp's out. I could see Arroyo really being a guy to step up and get some of those targets. He's just so dynamic and so athletic and fast. And if you get a mismatch on him, if Sam gets up there to the line of scrimmage and he sees Bobby on Arroyo, he's throwing it to him. I don't mean to disrespect Bobby. I love the man. I love everything he did. Like he still is a very important factor in all my passwords. So if that tells you anything, don't worry. You're not going to be able to figure any of them out. But also one of the nicest men that I've ever met in my life, in my previous professional career. So just no disrespect there. It's just he's just not as good in coverage as he used to be. Martin says, somebody will shut JSN down at some stage, but to do it will probably take double teams at the very least. That should mean someone else is open and Kupp and Horton are good wide receivers. It should. And at some point it will. It's just that it's been working. And the pass volume isn't there as much either. That's why you're just not going to see a wide receiver 2 on this team catch 80 balls. It's just in this offense, the way they're executing it, that's just not going to happen. Which is one of the reasons that I push back on trying to go out and trade for another receiver unless it's super, super cheap. No More Pain 57 says, I say stand pat with what we have and go for needs in the offseason. I think that's essentially where they are. And I will say this, like, what a great place to be. That as much as I can ever remember with the trade deadline coming up, there isn't that glaring need. Now, right guard, yes, you can make that argument. It's just they're so hard to find. If a Kevin Zeitler truly is available, I would do that. They obviously like him because they tried to sign him last offseason, not the most recent offseason 2024, before he went to the Lions at the time that year. I think they've tried to sign him several times when he's had free agency late in his career. If Cesar Ruiz can be had for less than what the Saints are reportedly asking for up front, of course they're going to ask for the moon. Remember, the Seahawks wanted a first and a third for DK at one point. Those demands usually change the closer you get to deadline. Deadlines spur action. If you can get a guy like Cesar Ruiz, reasonable contract, still just 26 years old, elite athletic profile, played for Kubiak last year. You could plug and play him at right guard, and maybe long-term even center's his best position. You could evaluate that in the offseason. I would do that. But how willing are the Saints to move him? And this is one of the reasons they're asking for a lot, because they incur a massive dead cap hit by trading him. They just extended him a year ago. And so there has to be some value in that for them. And then the other one is Jackson Powers Johnson. That just seems to be the one that won't go away. I had given up on the idea a week ago because when you go back and look at the last 3 games now, ever since his little doghouse benching, soft benching, whatever it was, with Pete and Chip kind of saying some bizarre things about him. He's played 100% of the snaps in the following 2 games at right guard. And then last game, when it got out of hand against the Chiefs, he was one of the starters they pulled to protect. So they're not acting towards that player in a way that seems like they want to move on from him. The real conflict there is they don't see him as a center. He thinks center is his best position. I think pretty much anyone who ever evaluated him in the draft 2 years ago thinks the same thing. But even at guard, he's pretty damn good. And so I'd given up on that idea because I just thought, okay, he's back in their good graces. They got a lot of issues there. Pete's not going to be there very long. And so why would you give up on a young player early in his rookie contract at a key position when your head coach might not outlast him? But then Albert Breer in his column today, and Albert's about as connected and accurate as they come. He doesn't just go throwing things out there willy-nilly. He said that there may still be a possibility that he gets traded, that they just don't like him at center as much as he wants to play center. And they keep insisting on playing guys like Alec Karras over him, even though they're not as good. So if a guy like that's available, I would give up quite a bit to get him because he's under contract for 2 more years, and he would immediately become a foundational piece of that offensive line. Like what I would do if JPJ truly is available is I go get him, even if it takes a day 3 pick or a day 2 pick, and it might cost you a day 2 pick and Anthony Bradford. That might make some sense for them, right? Carroll's got some experience with them. He's got some upside, and he plays right guard, or a Christian Haynes. Although, again, I think in that situation, then you're probably cutting Bradford. If you're trading Haynes also, now Bryce Cable is your next backup. I don't know how comfortable we'd feel with that, or Mason Richmond, because they seem like they're not interested in playing Josh Jones at guard at all. Anyway, the point I was going to make is if a guy like that is truly available and you can get him, I'd go get him, play him at right guard today, and then in the offseason, I'm moving him back to center. You know how much I love Sundell's upside? Great. But I think JPJ can be an all-pro center. It reminds me of Max Unger's first year when he was playing right guard. And they were playing a game, and oh my gosh, I always blank out on his name, but the former head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, the one that won Super Bowl with them, he was doing color commentary for CBS on that day, and he said, man, I really like this Max Unger, but they got him playing guard right now. If they ever move him to center, he's an all-pro. And the next year they moved him to center, and we saw what happened. I feel the same way about JPJ. So you go do that in the offseason. Now you have a long-term anchor at center next to Gray Zabel. Your tackles are set, and now you make a decision between Bryce Cabledew or Mason Richmond or another. At that point, I'd probably go get like a mid-range priced, good, solid veteran on the free agent market, or a young guy that you like that just hasn't had an opportunity to start full-time. Anyway, that would be my like perfect scenario. Reese's and Oreo cups are good. I've seen those. I haven't tried them yet. I'm all about combining things. It's like the candy version of turducken, right? Not a Seahawks question. Will Kirk Cousins be moved at the trade deadline? I'd like to see it. I mean, is there a dude that's easier to root for in the entire league than Kirk Cousins? But I just don't see it. That's quite a big contract to acquire. And the teams that are hurting at quarterback right now, they're kind of a lost cause. Are the Jets going to trade for Kirk Cousins? No, the Bengals have already fixed their solution with Joe Flacco. It doesn't make any sense at this point to go back to the Browns. I just, a reunion with the Vikings. I don't know. I think the Vikings need to it sounds like JJ is going to play this week, which is good timing for them because he needs to. And they should just roll with him, even if they take a step back this year and miss the playoffs. Like you gotta develop that guy. So I just don't know if there's a fit for him. Cookies and cream is the best ice cream flavor. It's up there. Again, I told you I like a lot of chunks. I'm into like, what did I have the other day? It was a private selection brand, so I think it was like Kroger's, like premium own brand, and it was like salted caramel and pralines. So it had like a caramel ribbon running all the way through it, and then candy coated peanuts. That was legit. Big fan of things like Moose Tracks. I'm one of those guys, when I order a Blizzard from DQ, I'm throwing other stuff in there, right? So I'll get like I'll get like a cookie dough Blizzard, but then I'll be like, let's add some Heath Bar and some Butterfinger to that too, and double the amount. I always pay the extra. Kendrickles says, how hard do you think John Schneider is pushing to get a right guard before the trade deadline? Jordan Schultz says that they're out there looking for offensive line. Other reporters have said it. ESPN has been reporting for weeks that unnamed executives around the league say that Seahawks have been making calls, and sometimes those are the most reliable sources, the ones from other teams, right? Because they would know, because they probably called them. So I think the timing of the bye, coming right before the deadline, when they go back and they do the self-scouting and they get really honest with each other. We saw what happened with the inside linebackers last year, and now that was right before the bye. Well, I think the Baker move was right before the bye, and then they did Dodson during the bye week, right? If they go back and watch that tape and they're like, we just can't, he's regressing now, because I thought he showed some moments early in the year. I know there were times I said it on the show that I didn't think he was as bad as a lot of people were saying he was. I thought he was really good against Tampa Bay, going up against Veda and Gaines, but he seems to be regressing. He's just not getting better. The pass protection issues are just still there. His footwork's bad. He lunges too much. He gets off balance. So I don't know how hard, a scale of 1 to 10 based on the reporting, I kind of feel like it's a 6. I think it's legitimate. I think there's something going on there. And then Mike McDonald the other day when he was asked about it, and you remember at his press conference, I think it was on Monday, gave that answer about how, hey, John's always looking. We're always aggressive. We're always out there looking. It was like he got caught off guard by that question, and he kind of smirked and got a smile on his face like he knew, like the year that I found out where my parents were hiding all my Christmas presents and I found them all. And like trying to keep that a secret. But I was pretty excited because I was getting a BB gun. Like that's kind of the look he had on his face. So I think they are out there working on it pretty hard. Call the Saints about Chase Young. Boy, that guy's kind of resurrected his career just when it looked like injuries had sort of derailed it. He's been a monster this year. Again, he's going to be your fourth edge. Like, they'll rotate those guys. I mean, Mike usually likes out 5. Corbin talked about that on the show again the other day. Are you going to cut Mafe? Are you going to keep him on as a 5th guy? I guess that would make some sense. You're probably going to have to risk losing Connor O'Toole on waivers if that's a guy that you really believe in. So Young's a guy they just signed. I think they really like him. I was reading something just yesterday that he might not be a guy that they really want to trade. So I don't know about that one. Shane says, finally caught you on a live for a change. He's in Australia. And I was talking about baseball. It was only for like 2 minutes, right? Hey, here's Shane again. Thanks for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Yeah, Tez says, I really like Jermaine Johnson coming out as he had a reputation of being the Energizer Bunny. Very hot motor. Max Crosby-esque D-line, potential cornerstone edge. Yeah, like I said, that's a guy, it sounds like the Niners might be in on him too. So maybe you have some of those conversations just because you want to try and keep him away from the 49ers. Because then I'd start getting a little bit more worried about the future of that 49ers defensive front. You had a Jermaine Johnson with a year left on his deal. To Michael Williams, and then Nick Bosa comes back next year, and you got C.J. West and Alfred Collins. That's a pretty damn impressive young defensive front with upside. Shane, the update on Love is he's out Sunday, but they haven't yet put him on injured reserve, so we'll see. Charlie says Kubiak may not want to be a head coach. Some people want to just be an OC. I also think, and maybe the characteristics I talked about earlier with his personality kind of factored into this, I think it was really, really important to the Seahawks that they went out and got the right guy this year, obviously, but also someone that they felt like could stick around for a couple of years. I don't think they were ever going to go get like a hot name or someone that they thought might be one and done because they just experienced that. I think... And not, things change. Look, if someone comes along and offers Clint Kubiak a head coaching job, he'd be a fool to turn it down unless, as you say, he just doesn't want to be one, but that's probably unlikely. But I would think that part of the process had to have been some assurances that, hey, let's do this for a few years. Let's see if we can get this thing to the Super Bowl, and then I'll assess my future. I think if they thought or felt strongly there was an opportunity for him to be one and done with a good year here, that they probably would have gone a different direction. No guarantees. That's just the way I feel on that. My thoughts on Mafe, Shane. I've been pretty consistent on this. I was really against them signing him before the season to an extension. I'm glad they didn't. And now I'm more convinced than ever that he's not in the long-range plans, that they'll let him walk in the offseason. He just, traits, no production. And I think they've got some production there now. I think, if Nwosu finishes the year healthy, he looks every bit the player he was pre-injury, and he's still on the right side of 30. I know he moved some money around to take a pay cut, so next year's kind of a balloon payment. But if he finishes this year healthy, they'll tack a year or two onto his deal, lower that cap hit next year. He'll be more of a long-range part of this thing. Hall will be as well. We'll be talking about extension for him in the offseason because it'll be after his third year. And then DeMarcus Lawrence, with 2 years left on his deal, I think has exceeded most people's expectations for how good he could be still at this age. So that's a really good 3 as a foundation. And then I think finding an edge in the draft next year is a big priority, or finding a guy on the free agent market that's young and just didn't, maybe a guy like Ebiketie, who will be a free agent this offseason. Hey, it didn't work out for you there, but we really liked you a couple years ago. Now, that wasn't Mike McDonald when he was drafted, but we know that Schneider and his scouting staff, all of which is, most of them are still there intact, really liked him. So maybe that's just another example of a guy that you can get on a prove-it deal in the offseason like they did with Nwosu and see if they can hit on one of those guys. I hadn't heard this, Shane. He says, also on JPJ, I heard reports his coaches at Oregon had similar issues with him as the Raiders are having. Would he be an upgrade if he brings issues? If the Seahawks had any concerns about that aspect of his personality, that he would be a distraction, then he won't be under consideration, period. They just don't compromise on stuff like that. So that could play a role. I'm sure as much as they've needed offensive linemen for the last few years. I'm sure they did heavy evaluation on him just a year and a half ago, and they would lean on that evaluation. And if it wasn't, maybe they don't like him. Maybe some of that did affect his grade. Charlie says, Dan, would you do Breece Hall for K9 straight up? I don't know why the Jets would, but I would, yeah. I think Hall's a more decisive runner, hitting the hole and getting north-south, and then he can absolutely hit the home run. Plus, I don't know if you guys read Greg Bell's latest piece. Maybe it was 2 days ago. Shedding some light on the workload management for Walker and how that ankle injury, the high ankle sprain he had late last year, actually was a contributing factor to the foot injury that he had to nurse throughout training camp, and that he never really got to be 100%. And that made so much sense. That was an aha moment when I read that in his piece, because he just hasn't looked like he has the breakaway ability that he has in years past. There's been a couple times where we've gotten out on explosive runs and he just doesn't seem to have the acceleration or the juice in the open field that he did. So I don't think he's 100% healthy, which would help explain why the timeshare with Charbonnet. They still like what he gives them. And that's, Greg alluded to that's part of the reason too, is they want to preserve him for 17 games as opposed to trying to use him up now. So Martin says he's got a Dunville 12-year-old single malt Irish whiskey as a nightcap. Almost went with vodka today. I haven't drank vodka in a while, but there was one summer where all I did, this is about 6 years ago, all I did is I didn't change anything about the way I was working out, anything about the way I was eating. None of my lifestyle changed, except for I didn't drink beer that summer. I drank vodka instead. Vodka with water and a squeeze of lime. That was it. And I lost like 18 pounds, changing nothing else, just stopping drinking beer and drinking vodka instead. I've never been a Scotch guy. I'm kind of known for bourbon. I won a big old-fashioned contest at one point. But ironically, I don't drink a lot of bourbon. I love a good old-fashioned, but I don't really just sip bourbon or whiskey. Nice. Shane's given me 2 views, doubling up on the telephone for watching and iPhone for chatting. Nice. I appreciate it very, very much. Got some news today, you guys, because everyone that's in here are just good, loyal, consistent viewers. So you'll know about my recent history with some internet issues, right? A couple weeks ago. And ever since I got back from training camp, it just like took a crap. It's supposed to be good. It's cable internet. I'm Ethernet wired from the router right into my computer. I would get the little connection instability warnings on StreamYard from time to time before I went to camp, but it never affected the picture quality, never affected my ability to stream. When I got back, it was terrible. Had to cancel a couple streams. Some of you might remember. Wasn't able to upload some videos. Had one video take literally all night to upload 2%. Had to airdrop it to my laptop and go to Starbucks to finish the rest of the way. My fiance just signed an extension here today, so we're going to be here at least through February, probably through May. And that means that the new fiber optic that I had installed last week, which I thought I was only going to pay for 6 weeks and gladly pay the early termination fee, now I get to move forward with that for the next 4.5 months. And it has been, the reason I did so much content this week, because it was so easy to do. I didn't have to worry about any of that. My uploads are faster. I can get work done. I'm so much more efficient. The picture quality is better. I don't have to worry about live streaming at all. And so there's some advantages to staying here in this area, and that's one of them. The other one is, and I still might go Sunday, Washington, D.C. is 5 hours away. Nashville's 4 hours, and Charlotte, North Carolina is 5. So no matter what, going to go to the Titans game and probably going to go down to the Panthers game too in December, now that we know we'll be here. I've got an old friend, my old television mentor, Jeff Rickard, is the program director for the sports radio station down there in Charlotte. So give me a chance to catch up with him. But I'll be catching some Seahawks road games and have phenomenal internet. So it's going to be cold. That's going to suck, but is what it is. Is John Schneider the GM of the year so far? He lost his top 2 offensive players in the offseason, turned the offense into a success rather than a struggle. So good. When you're a Seahawks fan, you just get used to your coach not ever winning coach of the year and your GM not winning GM of the year. Like, it usually goes to some new up and coming, like if the Jaguars end up winning 10 or 11 games, they'll probably give it to Gladstone, right? Like they should, because he had an absolutely outstanding offseason. When you look at the contributions from the key free agent signings, you look at the coaching changes, you look at key contributions from rookies. It's been spectacular. But I could see, I don't know who the GM in New England is, but I could see somebody giving it to him, right? They went out, they were terrible last year, brought in a new coach, great rookie class, their young quarterback, they've turned it around, like they're contending. Probably not. And it's a bummer because he should. He should. Martin says, I think if we come out of the next 3 games at 8-2 or 7-3, having beaten the Rams, then I think we can go on to win the division. I'm with you. It's so important, I think, to get to that Rams game at 7-2. That's why, they cannot look past. They're obviously not going to look past Sunday because they spent the whole bye focusing on it. There's the reunion with Dan Quinn and Bobby Wagner and all of that. There's primetime Sunday Night Football. There's, Mike McDonald's record on the road. There's wanting to correct the things that they wanted to correct during the bye week. And then they know that Rams game is looming. And then they come home and they play the Cardinals the next week. There is no way in hell Mike McDonald is going to let them look past the Cardinals in that game, even though we've handled them for years now. It'll be at home. That game will be the most important game on the schedule that day. And he'll communicate that, and I don't see them looking past the Cardinals. But if they can get to that Rams game at 7-2, then if you lose it, it's not as painful, and you get another chance to get them later, right? But also, man, if they can get that defense healthy, if they can get Julian Love back especially, and I think they might be, talked about this with Griffin Sturgeon on the show last week as well, where my question to him was like, are we finally built on defense to shut down the middle of the field against McVay and Stafford? Because they have just killed us there for years, killed us on dig routes and seam routes, and just like over and over and over and over again. I'll never forget. I think I still have nightmares about opening day 2 years ago with Puka Nakua's debut, and just how they just kept 20-yard dig. Well, now, like, you saw Emin Wari and that great reaction and pass deflection on the deep middle in route against the Texans. We've seen what Devin can do in there. And, man, I'd love for Julian to be back for that game too, because I think we might be able to impact that middle of the field a little bit and just make Stafford hesitate just enough that the pass rush can get to him. God, that game could just be the hugest. The Tez says, I'd rather give up higher trade capital to try and land Skoronski. Why would the Tennessee Titans even entertain the idea of trading their first-round pick from 2 years ago when you're building around a young quarterback? And I know the report said everyone is available except for Cam Ward and Jeffrey Simmons. Bullshit. Like, it would take you so much to get Skoronski out of there, and it would be a fireable offense, in my opinion. Like, why, when you're trying to develop a quarterback, a young quarterback, would you trade your best offensive lineman? Like, I don't see it. I just don't see it. That's kind of the same thing in somebody suggested Joe Tippmann to me last week, and he's another guy that's intriguing to me. Loved him in the process a couple of years ago out of Wisconsin. Like him better as a center than as a guard. The Jets have him starting at right guard. They actually have Josh Myers starting at center, which really surprises me. Tippmann's a really elite athlete for a guy that size. But the Jets struggled for so many years to put a quality offensive line together. Why would they trade Joe Tippmann? A guy that's young on his rookie contract, guard, center versatility, starting experience. You have to always look at it from the other team's side as well. Like, why would they do that? It makes sense for the Saints to trade Cesar Ruiz. It makes sense for the Titans to get something for Kevin Zeitler if they can. If the Raiders don't see JPJ as a long-term fixture and they just don't really like him, it makes sense for them to trade him. Now, if some of those same qualities and reasons they don't like him are things that the Seahawks don't value, then that takes him out of play. But even the Cleveland, it makes sense for the Browns to trade Wyatt Teller and Joel Bitonio. Although now that I've looked at it a lot closer, I don't think either of those guys make sense for the Seahawks. But some of these other guys they're on these wish lists that people ask me about, I just don't understand why they would trade that player. Let's see. And this is true. The Raiders do Raiders things. So you never know. You never know. Oh my gosh, Charlie. When you get the full-size Hershey bars or Kit Kat bars when you're trick-or-treating at 7 years old, you scored. If you're in Maple Valley, Washington tonight, go to 235th Avenue Southeast near the Cates Ridge housing development. My parent, well, it's just my mom because my dad's in the hospital, so maybe she's not participating this year. But they were like the last house standing that would do this. They would go to Costco and buy those big retail packs of full-size candy bars. Snickers, packs of M&Ms. I think they would do Milky Way too, which that's another little sidebar. I never understood Milky Way or Three Musketeers because all they are is not Snickers. Like Milky Way is Snickers without the peanuts. And Three Musketeers is Snickers without the peanuts or the caramel. It just, why? Why bother? Charlie asks who the next head coach to get fired is. Pete Carroll, Jonathan Gannon, Brian Daboll. I don't think Gannon gets fired. I think the issues there are on offense. I don't think Daboll gets fired. They found their QB, and he was his hand-picked QB. So you're going to fire that guy now instead of trying to develop him? Pete's the interesting one. It was going so badly, I didn't even know if he'd survive the year. Maybe he won't, but now I have heard from some people that have some connections with the Raiders organization that maybe they are going to be patient and give it a chance and just try to have another offseason where they get guys in for his culture and try to match that. I'm interested that you don't ask about McDaniel, and Jeffrey does right after you. Mike McDaniel will be the next to go. But then the Dolphins just came out. Well, they didn't announce it, but it was reported today, I think by Schefter, after the Greer firing, that he was going to last the rest of the year at least. And so maybe they like him enough there, and they think it's a talent issue, not a coaching issue. So I don't know. I mean, Callahan's already been fired. Man, there's a lot of people that want Zach Taylor fired in Cincinnati. That one I can't quite understand. I think he'd immediately have other head coaching opportunities. But yeah, I don't think there's another real obvious one out there. Let's see. We talked a lot about this, Shane, Corbin and I. Corbin has a lot of background with the running game, coached running backs in high school, played running back. The fact we have 2 second-round running backs on the roster and the running game is still struggling. The scheme helps the O-line. Are there any other changes that can make the scheme-wise to improve it? I think it's just – I don't think they have the perfect running back for what they want to do on the roster. As much as we like all the guys in that room, like I think they want someone as physical as Charbonnet, who's as more decisive like Charbonnet is, but with the juice that a healthy Kenneth Walker has. Like neither one of them is a complete back. Charbonnet doesn't have enough burst and speed. Walker isn't decisive enough in his cuts and finding the creases and likes to bounce too much. If you could take both of those players' best qualities and put them together, that's the kind of back that I think could thrive in this offense. And so I think they'll be looking hard at the running back class in this next draft. I really do. And I'll say this too. Mike McDonald talked this week about how, because he was kind of challenged by, I can't remember who asked the question, but he was talking about the Christian Haynes, the Anthony Bradford scenario. Is Haynes going to get a chance to compete for that job? And McDonald said, I think we've proven that if someone makes it clear to us they belong on the field, we're going to give them that job. Ty Okada, Drake Thomas, who were before him, Tyrese Knight, like they'll play the best guy no matter what. And so if they thought George Holani, that's the point I'm trying to get to. If they thought George Holani could give them something, they would give him some carries. Does he have one carry this year? I don't know if he does. Maybe in the New Orleans game. Although it was Jacardier Wright that got most of the carries in that one before he got hurt. Charlie says, Gray Zabel and Nick Emanwari recognized in CBS Sports midseason all-rookie team. That's awesome, especially considering Emanwari's only played like 2.5 games. Also, congratulations to JSN for Offensive Player of the Month. Well-deserved. Ooh, Shane says he's got family in Charlotte. They may have some tickets. Hit me up and I can reach out to them. I appreciate that. I will. I think I checked the other day, and like the thing about bad teams is tickets are cheap. So like that's the second to the last game of the year, isn't it? Could probably get in pretty cheap. I could get into the Redskins game on Sunday for like $80. And like I said, it's basically just like a tank of gas to get there and back. The only question would be, do I want to stay the night or not? That's where it gets a little tricky. I still might. I don't know. We'll see. I may just go up there and drive back. Excuse me, which I will obviously let you guys know because that would impact when I'd be able to react to the game. Yeah, this is a great point, Charlie. This is exactly the kind of guy that wins Coach of the Year, Shane Steichen, because they were so terrible a year ago, and now they look like the best team in the AFC, or at least top 2 team in the AFC, resurrected a quarterback. Yeah, guys like that win Coach of the Year, the guys that kind of bring teams from the brink. But if you go from 9 wins or 10 wins to 12 or 13, but you've completely systematically built your roster and your coaching staff in a way that you've set yourself up now to be true contenders, that doesn't win you GM or Coach of the Year awards. What are my feelings if Schneider actually makes 0 trades? Fine. I'm totally fine with it. Like, I don't believe in making a trade just to make a trade. Somebody brought that up on a live stream last week. Hey, we got to match the Rams and the 49ers. They've made moves. No, you don't. All that matters is the roster you put on the field on Sunday, how good that one is, and how well you can compete with those other 2 teams. And just making a move to make a move is how you end up with 3 or 4 draft picks next year, and you wish you had more. Shane asked if we have Mars bars in the States. We used to many, many years ago. I want to say when I was a wee little baby. Yeah, Snickers without peanuts. I don't know that we do anymore though. And then you have Vegemite on toast for a sweet treat. Oh. James says, gives a shout out for Smarties. See, I think there's 2 types of kind of general teams when it comes to candy lovers. The sugary kind of candies, Starburst, Skittles, Smarties, Mike and Ike's, Twizzlers, and then there's chocolate and caramel based. I'm more of the chocolate and caramel based. Like, I love me some Skittles, but I'm choosing candy bars and chocolate. Yeah, Charlie, Mike Tomlin, I mean, some Steeler fans have wanted him out there for a couple of years. Like, it's a tough place to be when you're winning 9-10 games every year, competing for your division, making the playoffs and not advancing. Like that gets coaches fired for sure. God, it's tough to imagine them going with anybody else there, right? I think the issues there are they need. How long has it been since Ben Roethlisberger retired now? Like, they haven't adequately addressed the most important position on the roster even though the other pieces there have been in place. And now they're talking about, there was a report this week that they're interested in bringing Rodgers back again next year at age 42. You're going to continue to kick that can down the road. Like, they're a good-ish team right now, but now they've fallen to 4-3. Like, do you really think Aaron Rodgers and that team can do any damage in the playoffs? You have to go figure out what the future of your quarterback situation is. That's not on Mike Tomlin. Ooh, Crown Royal Apple Neat. Yeah, I almost went with, there's two ways I like to drink vodka. One is, just with water and lime, as I said. The other one is just good flavored vodka on the rocks. Good flavored vodka. Some of those brands are crap. Like Absolute, I don't know how they've gotten such a good reputation. Their flavors are garbage. They just taste fake, extracty, metally. 360 vodka makes really good flavors, although it's a little too sweet at times. But I do like drinking just good flavored vodka on the rocks. A Milky Way in the freezer is good. Okay. Any chocolate in the freezer, especially Thin Mints, is money. I do know people that love their Snickers and Milky Ways and Three Musketeers frozen. My counter to that is a frozen actual Snickers bar cannot be better than a frozen Snickers ice cream bar. Those are actually better. They're so bomb. Like, one of the great innovations in frozen ice cream treats that ever came along. Those are phenomenal. Hey, there's James giving a shout out for Mars bars. Also, another shout out, another underrated candy. This came up the other day because the Seattle Sports 710 crew was all posting like their favorite and least favorite candies. And Mike Salk was the only one that gave a shout out to 100 Grand. That was his number one favorite candy. And that is one of my top fives, probably. Like caramel, Rice Krispie, milk chocolate. That is bomb, bomb, bomb. Ooh, see, Shane knows the Marathon bar. Do they have those in Australia still? They don't have them here anymore. Marathon bar, when I was a kid, it was a big deal. There was a huge ad campaign. They were much longer, but they looked like almost like a pretzel. Like, it was just chocolate covered caramel. That's all it was. But it looked like a rope where it was like intertwined in itself like this. And then on the back of the wrapper, they had like a ruler. I don't think they were actually full 12 inches long, but they put the ruler on the back, and that was like their ad campaign. Like, this is the longest candy bar. But they went away. They went away. Hey, Tootsie Rolls I think are garbage, but if you put a bowl of mini Tootsie Rolls in front of me, I'm eating them. I'm eating the chocolate ones, and if you got the variety pack, I'm going for the blue label. I'm going for the vanilla ones. They're crap, but I can't avoid them, if that makes any sense. Have I had Milky Way ice cream? No. And now I want some. Now I'm really regretting that all I have are the Werthers tonight. DoorDash may get a call for me. Martin, Dan, do you think the Chiefs are on the way back, or have they just gotten a good slate of games recently? I do, unfortunately, think that they're back. And I say unfortunately just because I have all the respect in the world for Andy Reid, and Pat Mahomes is one of the best ever and all that. Dynasties get boring. It's not jealousy. It's just boredom. I just don't like seeing the same teams every year be good. And after a slow start, it looks like some of the suspicions we've had the last couple of years about the Chiefs, ever since they traded Tyreek Hill, that you have to, in that particular offense, how they operate it and what Pat Mahomes does well, is you got to have those guys with game-breaking speed. And since they got Worthy back healthy, and then they got Hollywood Brown back a little bit healthy. Now Rashee Rice, like, my goodness, the impact he's had. Kind of feels like Andy Reid's back in his bag, and he gets to operate that offense the way that he wants to. And the defense is good enough too with Steve Spagnuolo there that I think it's going to come down to them and the Colts in the AFC. Faux sure. No Baby Ruth love. Oh, I had my Baby Ruth phase. Payday is another one. I mean, Baby Ruth's kind of just a chocolate-covered Payday, sort of, isn't it? You still have Payday also. Yeah, another shout-out for Marathon Bar, right? And then Shane with some love for Butterfinger. The beauty of Butterfinger is you get to just keep eating it for like an hour because all that peanut butter insides just get stuck in your teeth, and you get to just, I mean, some people might think that's really, really gross, but I absolutely love it. And that's another one where it was really evil that the candy companies came out with the unwrapped chunks of Butterfinger. That is just, whew. What's my take on Jelly Bellies? Oh God, it's been so long. Like, I'm old enough to remember when they first came on the scene. They were so huge. Like, you'd have the little recipe books, so they still make those where you could combine like 3 of this and 3 of this flavor and 2 of this and 1 of this, and it'll taste like this thing. Yeah, again, not a real sugary candy guy, but I'm not going to go out of my way to buy Jelly Bellies. But if there's a bowl of them in front of me, watch out. Watch out. All right, guys. I mean, it's been 2 hours. Holy crap, right? Let me do this because I did have some of this stuff kind of. Oh, there we go. There we go. Kind of like that. About this one. All right, nice, nice. Well, we'll let this take us out. Appreciate you guys being here. Sunday before the game, Brandon Kane and I are going to do a little pregame, little tailgate of Brandon and the Hawks Nest. And so it's going to originate on his channel, but I'll stream it back to mine as well. And then it's since it's such a late game on Sunday night, I won't do a live reaction, but Monday I'll do a full reaction show. I'll wait until, I might beat Mike McDonald to his coach's show, but I'll do, wait a minute. Did Shane just say he tried Cool Ranch for the first time on my recommendation? Nice. Good to know that I'm impacting lives with this show. But we'll do the pregame show on Sunday, and then I'll react on Monday in full fashion. But I'll do it live. I'll just have some things prepared and some sound from Mike McDonald and all of that. So look for that Monday night. And then we'll get ready for the Cardinals game. And then, my goodness, the Rams game coming up shortly after that. So stay tuned for that. Best way to always know what I'm doing is to follow me on Twitter at Seahawks Forever. And then again, check out the new Patreon page where you can get all of my content all under one roof and special exclusive bonus content. And you can vote in the bracket of boom every month and pick a video topic for me on our Discord channel. So get over there and check all that out. Those of you that are members here on YouTube, obviously there's still benefits specific to YouTube that you get with the priority and the stars and the badges and all of that. But also know that I will be adjusting the tiers slightly soon so that you can get, I want to give as much value as I can to those of you that want to remain members here, but don't necessarily want to sign up over on Patreon. And by the way, the all everything tier over there is just $10 a month. And that includes, again, everything, video, audio, Substack, all of it. But I am going to work Substack into the highest tier of the YouTube model as well for those of you who wouldn't be interested in joining Patreon. So just keep an eye out for all that stuff. And the best way to do that is by following me on Twitter. All right, guys, let me play that again because that was kind of cool. Yeah, I wish I could play stuff that's licensed, but don't want a copyright hit. Anyway, thanks. That's the last day of the month, so appreciate all your donations and your super chats and everything on here. And as we move into November, let's enjoy following a playoff team as they strive to win the division. Enjoy the game on Sunday night. Have a great, safe Halloween tonight. I'll see you on, before the game with Brandon, and then on Monday to wrap it all up. Until then, forever and always go Hawks. Thanks, you guys. I really appreciate it.